Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And this is James.
He's back, folks. Our resident Jim Nye, the baseball guy, our good friend James Nahikian and fellow BGSU alumnus is here. So you know that's baseball. He's here a little bit later than he would be otherwise, but literally, you know what's here. We're talking about postseason baseball today, and we're topsy-turvying the lineup a little bit. James, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Always a highlight of my life and my year when I get to a couple of times I get to be on this show. And man, it's great. Just happy to see you guys and talk some sports today.
For sure. Kason, how you doing, man?
Good, good. You know, you know how things have been going in my side of things, so
I know, as
that's
does
mostly,
everybody else, as my man's about
yeah.
to be a dad. Um, I wanted to, okay, I'm actually like thanking God right now because I really thought to myself, this could be really bad if the Tigers get eliminated and then immediately James has to jump on this on this podcast and talk about baseball devastatingly. That did not happen. We're going to talk about baseball later in the show, but immediate reaction, the Tigers did just win against the Mariners. Final score 9-3, James. Immediate reaction.
Wow. I like you just said there, I was pretty convinced. So I didn't really get to see it, basically any of this game because I had to drive my aunt and uncle to the airport during rush hour traffic, and it basically took like an hour and a half both ways. And I was kind of, especially with them in the car, I didn't really want to like have the game even on the radio or anything. It just
Yeah.
was too much like nervous like energy, and like I don't like. I almost like was like, okay, this, maybe I can just drive and I'll eventually see if they won or lost, and it won't be as stressful as like listening it like a really important game with like people you're not super comfortable around, like if you're like getting really into it and whatnot. So I was trying to not even really see what happened, but then we drove by the stadium literally on our way to the airport,
That's
and my
cool.
uncle's like, "Oh, the Tigers are playing in the playoffs. Let me pull up the score." So he checks it, and it's like I was like, "Oh gosh," it's like 2-0 Mariners in the top of the fourth. I'm like, like tried not to really have much of a reaction, but I kind of went into this game. I'm like, the Tigers offense has just been pathetic over this last month. That's mainly been their issue. So I'm like, already down 2-0, like facing elimination. Yesterday was a complete disaster. Like this just might not be good. So then we like get, about 30, 45 minutes later, we get to the airport, and my uncle updates me again and says it's 3-0 Mariners. So now I'm totally convinced that it's over.
It's over.
Like it's
Yeah.
5-0. It's 3-0 in the fifth inning. Like I don't have confidence we can score 2 runs, let alone 4 now to win. And so I don't even really check the score. Like an hour and a half later, I get back, and right when I pull into the driveway, I'm like, all right, like the game's probably over. I checked the score, and it says 7-3 Tigers. And I am like, wow, like one of the most stunning, like I could not believe, like I almost thought I was like looking at like the Yankees and Blue
Yeah.
Jays score or something. I had to literally take like a quadruple take, and I was like, oh no, wow, like it says 7-3 and the game's still going on. So then I think that was like when I texted you guys that it was back, and or shortly after that, and it was, I turned on the game, and the first thing I saw was Gleyber Torres hit a home run. So then it was 8-3. So wow, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Can I say
pretty
what?
stunned. I mean, I don't really know. I've seen kind of that. I just pulled up the box score, and it looks like Javier Baez had an incredible game. But yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
pretty surprised by this result, I will say.
Not to cut you off, but I did want to just mention Kaysen and I were sitting here like, okay, so Tigers are good, and it's like, so we're either going to get a really elated James or the funniest like 20 minutes of our lives if of the
Oh
Tigers
yeah, they just
somehow blow a
yeah,
6-run lead in the ninth.
right, yeah.
Like at some point it would not be funny anymore. It would be like, oh man, we got to pick our guy up on the cast. That's incredible. James, we will get back to baseball like after we talk a little bit of football to kind of let you absorb what's going on. But For now, Tiger's still alive. We will dive into it in a little while. Game five will be on Friday, right?
I honestly don't even know, honestly.
I think it would be
What's
Friday
today?
because
Today's Wednesday, right?
yes,
Yeah, that would make sense. So they have the off day going to Seattle.
cool. So we'll get into that. Casen, we do have a lineup today. We're going to start with college football, then talk pro, then get into baseball. So we'll come back to that. Casen had a story that broke today, and I don't know what he's referring to.
Yep.
And he was like, let's
Yep.
throw that on the beginning of the show. So go for it.
So so there was a story that came out today. It's been reported by a lot of people. Who knows about the true legitimacy of it, but there have been a lot of people talking about it and commenting on it, including Florio. And apparently there's already conversations happening in Chapel Hill about Bill getting removed.
Oh, man.
There are conversations. There are some sources saying he's approached them about negotiating a lesser buyout to just leave. Like it because this comes off the heels of the news breaking that the Hulu documentary that was supposedly happening isn't happening because their season's a disaster and the entire facility is a nightmare. And so part of the story is that there's apparently a ton of recruiting violations happening right now. And
Interesting.
so the school is apparently trying to find some kind of rule violation that they can get the Belichick staff on as an excuse to not have to pay him anything. And it seems to be heading down a very tumultuous breaking point on all sides and all parties of just like this is a nightmare. We need to just clean house for everybody's sake.
My
So we'll see
wow.
how that
Okay.
goes.
My I'll chime in my reaction and then James, I'll toss it to you. Like my immediate reaction, obviously, we talked about a little bit of the circus that was going on here. It almost it's interesting because it's interesting to watch them get to that breaking point that quickly. But in today's college football, it's like, listen, we thought this was going to be bad. It's been bad headline after bad headline since the last spring, just with all the bizarreness with his relationship. And of course, now the season's going on and it really is as bad. I mean, in reality, I think we all should have seen this coming. And in our heart of hearts, I think we really kind of thought like it has more of the capacity to go really bad than it does really good. But that shows me right there that like things have truly soured to the point of, oh, there really is no coming back. Like this whole thing was just an ungodly, horrible throw it in the trash mistake. Like, can't we never speak of it? Horrible, like truly, like I made the comparison, James, on a past show. In case in you two, you might remember Urban with the Jaguars, like that whole thing that just becomes a footnote of what never to do. Don't just give the keys to someone like this. That's my immediate reaction. James, what you got?
Yeah, wow. I mean, I saw their first game of the season and they had like an opening drive touchdown, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, like Bill Belichick, like this is incredible." Like North Carolina football, and then they get absolutely destroyed in that game. And then it was just, yeah, like really, I think after that night, it was almost like, okay, we really need to like keep our eyes on this because this was really bad. And it's just I just feel like bad for like the players and stuff because like
Yeah,
all this stuff that comes out too where like Bill Belichick doesn't even want Patriots people around, and they're telling their like don't even say anything about Drake, don't promote Drake May. And it just like it just seems like a total not fun situation to be around. So if like the one thing Kaysen said that I found interesting there was like negotiating out the buyout because that was I like the huge issue. I would assume it's like 20 million or something crazy. So if like Bill Belichick, if this
I
ultimately
don't
happens to where he just resigns to this and like there's no buyout or whatever, at least good on him for that. But it just has been a complete disaster. I'm sure what everyone sees, and the
yeah,
thing with his girlfriend and everything, like none of that stuff optics wise helps him, I'm sure, either.
yeah, I don't know the terms of the buyout because I know there was that one thing that was saying that if he wants to leave, like for a different job, he can make it like a million or so. Like there's a lot of weird stipulations with the buyout in this, so I don't think anybody really knows. But
All right.
yeah, part of the story that I saw was that, or one detail I saw that I don't know may or may not be true, but was saying that if he can find some other media job or something, then he'll accept a much lower buyout
Ah,
because
okay.
of that. But
I,
Which I'm sure
but yeah,
people are
but
lining up to hire
part,
Bill
yeah,
Belichick
but
after this now.
part of the story was somebody was suggesting, somebody with sources in the building was suggesting that they don't know if he's going to be coaching in Berkeley on Saturday. Like
wow,
that's how
immediate this could
drastic this
be.
has been. Yeah. So like I have no idea because like if that were the case, you'd think it would have happened by now. So I don't know, but it's apparently reaching a point to where it's like completely. If it doesn't happen and like he is coaching on Saturday, that might be the end.
I got to be real with you guys though. That's the kind of situation to where if that actually does happen, I'm sorry. Like there, if I'm a board of trustees member or something, I might be calling for the resignation of like multiple people in the administration too. I'd be
That
like,
hired him in the first place. Yeah.
100%. Like I'd be like, guys, and I'm not rooting for anyone to lose their job. I never am. But this
I
is
don't care.
definitely
Fire him.
at this point, I'm kind of over here like you guys like turned our university into a national embarrassment, and it took like 4 months. Like it didn't even take like it took like 5 months. It took a calendar year. Like it took all this time. We went from, Mac Brown, we had a clean situation. We could have gotten a young coach, something in here, good. And you gave this like footnote in horrible, misjudged football history to our university. I'm sorry. You guys should go too. And like I don't even want you guys making the next decision because you thought all this was a good idea. So it's a bizarre athletic department. We know they've had their scandals in the past. We know they've thrown their precaution to the wind here and there for winning. And I can tell you, having spent some time in North Carolina, some Tar Heel fans are totally fine with that. I get it. It's college sports. It's the nature of the beast. But this is one of those rare situations where I'm like, no, I'm sorry. More heads need to roll for this. Like it's like Belichick out of here. The season ruined. Us a laughing stock. I don't like it. But yeah,
It is kind of crazy too that they like a lot of times you see schools will go like the opposite way on their previous hire. And like not that Mac Brown was like a disaster by any means, but it's not
no.
like it was like some resounding success. And that was bringing on like a really old like guy that people didn't even really think if he was going to coach again. And then they got him to, I know the history with, he wanted to kind of go back there and everything, but then they kind of like double down on that, getting another kind of old, like past his prime or what people would say, and they go with Bill Belichick. So it's like, yeah, to your point, it's like this was kind of at the time there were, I think most people were like really skeptical of this, and now that it's turned out to be such a disaster that like a month into the season he might just get up and leave. Like, yeah, I agree. That's horrible. Like this has been such an embarrassment to North Carolina.
It's egregious, as
Yeah.
James would say back in the day.
Now, I do just kind of want to end on this topic, on this question here. So if this does happen like the next week or so, and he's out at UNC, what does this do to his legacy?
Oh man.
Because we have now seen after Tom left New England in 2020, they got increasingly worse the further they got from the Brady Patriots, to the point where he was basically fired from there. And then now he's running his own ship in North Carolina, and that's a complete disaster. And it seems like it was relatively similar, when it was with Cleveland. It seems like it was kind of the same thing of like people hated him there at the time because he rubbed people the wrong way. And so it's just like what is his actual legacy if you remove the Tom Brady of it? Like is there really something to think about of like that's the whole problem here? It's like he knows in the deep heart of his own heart that he doesn't have any credit for winning all those Super Bowls, and that's why he's doing all this stuff to try and prove.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of that. I think there is a little bit of people like Jordan and other people in his circle telling him things about, no, I mean, you had just as much to do with that and everything. I really think all of that plays into a role here. Honestly, I would look at him leaving as salvaging what left he can of the legacy. I mean, he still has plenty of his legacy in the NFL. That's like he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. All of that is going to happen. But I think he has fully solidified now that whenever it happens that he is getting the gold jacket and everything, people like the three of us are going to be, elbowing each other and saying, Yeah, he really should be he should really should be thanking hot Tom Brady extra hard here because without him, he's none of this ever happens. You know, I said on this show, I said, thank goodness that this throwaway quarterback pick, number 6 round pick from Michigan that no one thought was going to do anything, came in and was on the back, was able to come in when Drew Bledsoe got injured, or none of this might have ever happened. So, James, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as far as his legacy, I think he's still probably considered pretty, uh, like transformational in terms of a lot of his viewpoints and stuff on like defense specifically. I think he's still a great defense, like all time great defensive mind, and like
Yeah.
how he viewed special teams and like the end of the quarter, like end of the half, start of the third quarter type stuff. Like a lot of people credit Bill Belichick for valuing that and teaching specific stuff of it. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly, if you're just talking Tom Brady or Bill Belichick, for a while now, it's kind of trended towards Tom Brady. And I mean, we've followed football. Like there was so many times throughout the Patriots, like them being good. It's like, how is this even possible? Like they get all these random guys and like their drafting was horrible. Like they never drafted well, even when they were good. And it was like these like people that people didn't even think were that like these players that people didn't even think that highly of. But Tom Brady, got the best out of it. He didn't have like other than Randy Moss, who was like at the very end of his career. It's not like they really had these incredible weapons and everything. It was all these try hard guys that like they just worked because things like because Tom Brady is incredible. So, but yeah, I mean, I still think Bill Belichick's great, but he's certainly hurt his reputation, I think, with a lot of people over the last several years, dating back to his time as when Tom Brady left the Patriots.
Cajun, you got anything? Because
No, yeah, I mean I think that pretty much sums it up.
stick a pin in that because we'll definitely be talking and be texting about that one for sure. From one potential coach leaving to another, we're going to talk some college football. We're going to primarily talk about the two astronomical losses that happened this past week. Primarily because I gotta say, in our college football season show, James, you may not know this. I picked Penn State and Texas to meet in the national championship game. I was so off on this, but it makes me feel better knowing that a lot of people were off on this. Everyone was like, "Oh wow, this is really something." Obviously, this past weekend, Penn State loses at UCLA 42-37. Texas loses in the swamp to Florida 29-21. We're going to start with Penn State because I literally have those two as primary things I wanted to spend the majority of our time on today because this is the most shocking loss in a college football season I can remember in a long time. And it seems like, and I don't mean like a regular like they lost to. I get it, like they're in the same conference. We saw NIU beat Notre Dame last year, and then Notre Dame made it to the national championship game. It seems like there's a loss like this, everything. But when you consider how high the stakes were and all the attention was on Penn State after the Oregon loss, this one I think captivates so many people because of how um, unique and attention grabbing, headline churning it is because of what Penn State's reputation was after the Oregon loss and what they then immediately turn around and do this past weekend. Anyone can start. Casen looks,
Yeah,
yeah,
I will say this is probably the biggest loss that a top 10 team has had in a long time. Just because of the expectations coming into the season for
yeah.
the team. I mean, you can say the NIU Notre Dame one, but like I don't think anybody thought Notre Dame was an actual like championship, like they're gonna be in the title game before that happened. I mean, I think
No
everyone
one was
kind of
putting
assumed.
them in the game already,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we all were
yeah,
Penn
yeah,
State this year. Like,
exactly.
and it's even worse because, and not to cut you off, dude, but like it's even worse because Franklin sat there and said, "This is probably the most talented team I've had." I mean, he gassed up his own team too, and it's like, oh man,
I would also argue that like on the whole, like relatively speaking, that Notre Dame team losing to NIU is probably a closer match than this awful UCLA
mm,
team versus Penn State. Like,
You're
I
probably
mean,
right.
I like that. Like, we're talking a winless UCLA team that already fired their coach. Like, this is nuts. Like, that's nuts.
With
With
the Tennessee guy that everyone like made fun of so much, the
Nico.
quarterback. Yeah, like that guy dominated them. Like, and everyone had talked so much crap about that guy over the last, deservedly so, honestly, for most of the optics of it at least. But that guy played incredible.
He did. I wanted to pull this up because not to mention when you had situations like Jerry Neuheisel. Shout out to that dude because he immediately went viral. Not just because he's got great hair, but also because man, my man couldn't even play call. Like if like he was having trouble like calling in the plays with the headset, and I'm like, listen, if you don't use one of those all the time, you got to learn how to use it. Like I get it. But him being like carried off the field, he played at UCLA, man. That footage I sent to at least Casen, but I'm sure you saw it, James. The repeat after me. It's a great day to be alive and be a Bruin. And then everyone like does it back to him. I'm like, dude,
I did see that.
have your moment, man. That is incredible.
Like
Yeah.
I didn't know that guy existed, but then I was watching that game and I saw him. I was like, wow, that looks exactly like Rick Neuheisel, his dad. And then like they were like panning him in like during the game as it was going on and like getting his opinion on stuff. I'm like, that whole thing was incredible too. And they were showing like his dad like
Yeah.
freaking out, like cheering in the studio and stuff while that game was going on. And then yeah, I mean
To the point to the
that whole
point
side
where
of it was amazing. And like it's just goes with what you were saying. Like he didn't even know how to work the headset because he like had never called plays before. I didn't even think that was like a thing. I thought it was just you put the headset on and you could talk to people. So that was interesting with him saying that. But yeah, just that whole game was incredible, really.
and I guess it had to do with like there's the switch where you talk to you got to talk to your guys and then you got to talk to the quarterback with the
Oh, that's
the
yeah,
so you
yeah.
got to switch it from back and forth. I guess that's kind of
Okay,
how
you're
it
right.
goes. So if you're the direct play call, you're talking to the quarterback with the head with the mic'd up helmet on. But I loved that his dad was freaking out to the point where he felt like he had to apologize when they came back
Yeah,
to him in the sun. He's like, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize to the Penn State fans out there, but like
yeah.
my
I
son
love
just
that
did that.
guy.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
that's a great moment. And I guess his mom was at the game, which is great
Oh, nice.
because there wasn't enough people there to storm the field. But if there had been, no doubt she would have been one of them.
One other thing, I don't know if you guys saw this, this was like kind of a smaller thing that came out of it, but apparently, like this week, Monday, when they did Penn State's press conference for whoever they play, I think Northwestern they play next.
Yep.
Um, and James Franklin, I guess, always starts his press conferences by giving like a detailed scouting report of the next team, so Northwestern. But he didn't do that for this week because he was like, for lack of a better way to put it, like so much feeling the storm of around him of them losing that game and everyone, thinking he should be fired or whatever. That he started his. I think he just like was talking more about last week's game as opposed to the Northwestern game. And some reporter literally asked him like, "Hey, Coach Franklin, like I've been to every single one of your press conferences for X amount of years since you've been here, and every single one you started by giving a detailed scouting report of the upcoming team, and you didn't do that for this week. Like, and James Hank would even said, like, you're right, I didn't do that. And then he went into it. But that right there was kind of like a really telling, like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, like he's out of sorts right now. Like he didn't even know how to start his press conference that he's done for like 10 years or however long he's been there.
I can appreciate that reporter not really trying to give him a gotcha moment, but kind of throwing him a softball, like, "Hey, you
Yeah.
you might
Like,
want to just talk about Northwestern, dude." Like,
right.
just throwing it out there. That is interesting. I would argue that James Franklin's in a worse place now than Ryan Day was after Michigan last year. I mean, this is heat. I mean, and you guys know I have friends who went to Penn State, so I mean it was bad after Oregon. This was like leave him on the tarmac bad. Like it was like Lane Kiffin. They wanted that happening. So, Casen, any thoughts
Yeah,
to kind of close it up before we move on?
well, it was also I very funny, which
Or anything to talk about?
I don't know if this was even on him. It could have been like a staffer or like a scheduled tweet, But like Sunday, he tweeted out
Oh yeah.
like we got to start like gonna start the week 1-0 or something, and like it got ratioed so bad, and then it was just like I don't know if that was a scheduled tweet that he didn't turn off or I don't know, but it was just like it just came off like bro,
It I
read the room.
James and I can kind of speak for that. Like that, James, for you, I don't know if you saw that tweet, but that tweet definitely has. He didn't tweet this energy. Definitely had like a probably pre-scheduled. He
Yeah.
may not have tweeted that himself, and
You're
someone
probably right, honestly. I didn't even think about that, but that probably is 100% the case because that
I'm just,
definitely happens all
I'm
the
just
time.
throwing it out there. You know, you've been a football SID before. I've briefly been one. We know sometimes that happens because those bigger schools, there's a handler for the coach and whatever. But if it was James Franklin, which is probably more the case, he probably just said, "Oh, let me reset the stage here." No, man, everyone's mad, like really mad, leading to James's point of the flustering there. But I mean, legit. I listen. I'm not here to bury Penn State. Casen said a week ago, James, that like they are what they are now at this point. You can still listen. They have two losses. One of them's a horrendous loss. If they win out, that's the best chance they have of making the playoff at all. So,
I think they'd be in if they went out because they play like Indiana
and
and
Ohio
Ohio
State
State or
and
whatever.
right, exactly.
They're just, I don't think they're going to beat them. So,
No, right now I would have them losing both of those games
right, I would too.
and
Yeah,
maybe a couple more because at this point now the players, the ones that are left are going to be like season's over, like,
Yeah.
and that's the hardest
I
thing
agree.
Which
on
I think
October 10th or whatever this week is to say, all right, guys, let's get up for the next game. It's like, nah, not after last week.
I think that what that story about the press conference even really fuels that Franklin thinks the season's over because
Yeah,
I
the
think I
vibes
think
kind
he
of.
it feels like he thought the season was over after Oregon because like the impression I got was that they were not prepared for UCLA and that he was not mentally there, and then when they lost, he's even more checked out. So it just feels like he's not even there. Like it's a rudderless ship here.
And it's a sad thing to say, but there is a little bit of that feeding off of the energy of even if you have the rest of the season in front of you, you lose that game to Oregon. There is a little bit of that. Yeah, but now we know once again that if push comes to shove against those teams, we're not going to win. And when
Yeah.
you have that bleeding into an entire week of practice, yeah, you probably, and you have a weird, long West Coast trip, all that stuff. Maybe this was a perfect recipe for another loss, you know? So now you really do have to gut check and just see what you got and see what you can salvage, you know? If anything else, I'd be telling my guys, hey, you're still playing for the league. This is still Penn State. Like, there's still a lot to play for. So, um, got to switch it over to Texas because similar vibes after last week. But a little bit different vibes because I've had a lot of people say in my circle this week, guys. I don't know if you guys have as well. Obviously, we've talked about Arch Manning. He looks over his head. He looks like his decision making isn't great. He looks like at times he doesn't grasp the quite frankly what's needed for the position, at least at this level. And I'm not trying to bury the dude because he's done nothing to hype himself up. It's been all the media. It's been all everything. You know, he's a good kid, clearly, comes from a good background. But um, the disconnect between what was expected of this Texas team and what we see here, similar conversation. Differences, but similar conversation. Uh, let's hear it, fellas. Whoever wants to
Yeah,
go.
from with what you just said previously about Penn State, is I had so much expectations for them because even if I didn't really believe in James Franklin, they still went pretty far in the playoff last year and returned their quarterback and a lot of their star players, like their running backs. With Texas, I was kind of a little bit apprehensive just because I didn't quite know how good Arch Manning was actually going to be. And I think you're right. He clearly just right now isn't ready to play, at least at playing the schedule that they did and opening up with an elite opponent. And so yeah, they're kind of getting exposed right now as a team that doesn't really have the quarterback able to lead them. And it's a good look for Quinn Ewers because
Yeah.
there was seemingly all last season, it was like, oh, we should play Arch Manning. And I know there were injuries and he had to fill in and did a pretty good job. But yeah, it's tough when uh, you're getting compared with your last name. Um, because I agree, he's kind of like done a really good job of like staying in the shadows and not drawing attention to himself. But he just hasn't quite adjusted to the high level of play yet, and it's his first season still playing, so he still has not to say his career is doomed or anything.
No, I wouldn't say that either. Casen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, along the lines, I mean, Sark is kind of in the same boat as Franklin. Of it's like
Mm.
these are obviously very good coaches, but they all kind of have this narrative of like when push comes to shove, they're not winning the big game. I mean, that's just kind of the narrative about it. And uh, Arch has always been a question mark for sure because uh, he didn't look impressive in the games he filled in. Like he didn't make critical mistakes last year, but he didn't look like special. And so everyone assuming that he was like, oh, going to be a one and done NFL quarterback without even seeing him play, more than like 6 quarters. It was like, what are we talking about here? Um, and so yeah, I mean, along with all the talent they lost too. I mean, because they did lose a lot.
They did.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
They
And
they did, and
so
it's showing now. It's showing. It's
yeah,
not just Arch. It's not just Arch Manning.
and so I think that's definitely something that people kind of forgot. Um, and it's it's just the SEC plays tough. I mean, maybe they could win the Big 12 if they were still there. But I mean,
Well,
it's just the
well, and there is a part of my head that went to the same place. I was like, with this probably, everyone would probably look better if you guys were still, you know, in the Big 12, and putting up a whole bunch of points and not really
yeah.
not having to go with these like at times like even the mid teams in the SEC have pretty shut down pass offenses defenses, excuse me. And so it's sort of like, well, in the Big
Their
12, well,
toughest
that's
game would
not
be like Iowa State instead of like
yeah.
always playing like kind of an incredible team every week.
Almost like a few years ago when literally all of us were saying, "Oh, Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. Have fun never winning in football." and obviously I think both programs are capable of winning that. But like consistently like this is what you're gonna see. I mean, this is just what like a Texas in a loaded conference of what the SEC is now looks like. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, I don't want to. We can keep talking about Texas, but I have a question about Florida whenever we're done with Texas.
we can no, we
Because
can. It's about them too. Yeah,
what does this mean about Billy Napier? Because like
means he's perfectly fine.
he was weeks away from getting fired, and now it's like, how do you fire the guy that beat Texas?
And that's what yeah, I'll tell you who's definitely not feeling any pressure this week, like pressure in terms of the hot seat. Billy Napier's like, ain't no one talking about me this week.
I mean, they're still playing undefeated A&M, but like, I don't think there's expectations to win that game at this point.
Well, if they win this week, I'm going to be sitting around like, okay, where's this Florida team been? Like, okay, I'm gonna be like, okay, now I'm sitting here like, okay, is Florida a contender now? Like they'll be like 2-0 in the SEC or something. Uh, I don't know, but I think looking at this from a greater prism, guys, of everything all of us are saying into account, this really is just today's college football now.
I agree.
The playoff is wide open. Let's be real. An objectively good thing is that even a loss this bad, maybe this bad, I won't call like Texas's loss as bad as Penn State's. Obviously, it's not. But you know, your season's not ever completely cooked unless you get like 3 losses, 4 losses. Then it's like, okay, yeah, you're probably just a bowl team. But objectively, that is a good thing for college football. So your whole season isn't over after 1 loss. That being said, I also think that, sort of like what we talked about, Casen, like, is it a game to game thing, getting your players up for every single game? Is it a, we kind of talked about how NIL has changed the severity of that. Like players understand that that's the case as well. And I look at this as more of kind of like a pseudo NFL situation because we've all had our teams come out just look flat and you just get destroyed by 30 points. It's like, okay, it is what it is. Then your team looks fine the next week. It's a get right game. Like, I don't know what happened in that game. We'll just kind of whatever. Like, I think you're going to see a lot more of that in college now. Like, it's sort of like, all right, look, I don't know what team that was last week, but whatever. I mean, honestly, even look at the national champs. Like, I don't know what happened or why they can't beat Michigan, but they certainly destroyed everybody on their way to a national championship. So maybe this is just partially all of this is just the parody of what we're gonna see now from this sport. Thoughts on any of that?
I agree. I think college football is very much like the NFL now, and that it's week to week, and uh, it's really hard to predict like what's going to happen, and at all levels. Like you with the transfer portal, and like at any point in the season, half your roster could be kind of thinking about what they're going to do next season, and
Yeah.
I think a huge issue has been like the eligibility. I think they might finally get it figured out and just do like the 5 years and 5 years or whatever. Uh, but I know that's been like a huge thing at the start of the year. Like if your team starts off bad, you can like preserve your red shirt by not playing whatever 4 games or whatever it is. Um, I like it just seems like everyone is on their own path for the most part. Like all these
Yeah.
players are here at the school for 1 year, or 2 years, and it's just hard to build anything really like that and to have like a consistent team when it's changing so much every single year and like there's just so many moving parts now.
Jason?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot with all the developments over the course of the time we've had the show with the transfer portal
Yeah.
of just kind of how and I think we even kind of predicted it too. If it's just like the more these programs turn into like revolving doors, like the harder it is to sustain a program.
Yeah.
And
And I guess I'll bring it full circle by saying, and that right there is where I think fans need to understand it a little bit more as well. In the sense of if you start to see a different, I don't think we're there yet, but I think if you start to see more of a situation like a Billy Napier, it's like, listen, let's give this guy like a good 5 years and see what he can do. It's like don't unless things are obviously off the rails awful, like a UNC situation. Well, yes, but I can also see certain programs, if you're like a fringe program, not like a mega program, but if you're like a fringe 3, 4 star program, it's like, listen, we'll give this guy a full 4 years, regardless of what happens, and see what they can do. Because whether you build a roster through the transfer portal, whether you're a good team builder, whether you're good at recruiting, whatever, like, I think that, in other words, I'm slower to crush these guys for losses like these two nowadays based on what we just talked about because I recognize that's the case. It's sort of like how Syracuse had 2 really bad weeks in a row. I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting here. I'm like, yeah, I still think Fran Brown is great for the program. I still think he's great for that city, for that area, for that roster. Like he lost his starting quarterback for the year. It's like it is what it is. But it's like I think that kind of need. I think our expectations need to change as well. I don't know. Now, none of us are necessarily fans of like a national championship caliber program, so to speak. At
Yeah,
least
my
not.
expectations for my team
Yeah,
couldn't be any lower. So I feel like you're like that mindset is what I've always had. Like I don't go into any season as a BG football fan being like, I know we're gonna lose automatically. We're gonna lose several games probably, and
exactly.
but where I'm, if I was a fan of a team competing like for a national championship, I'd probably have a little bit different mindset. But yeah, it's you have to your point. I think you have to figure out like what exactly you're trying to be. Like if you're a really higher end program, like and think we should be able to really compete at a high level from year one. Um, or if you're like you said, a 3 star team and it's probably going to take a couple of years. And then the really challenging thing with that is when it goes bad, it's hard to like have patience and be like, yeah, this is just part of the process. Especially when in this era too, it's almost like you're expected to, or at least it's more possible to immediately become good if you just really do amazing in the transfer portal or whatever. So it's just, it's tough. You got to figure out like what your program is and then really try to stick to it, because just giving it 3 or 5 years is probably the right plan for a lot of these teams and schools, but I don't know that all of them can stick to it when it's not going well and they just panic and make a wrong decision. Like it's easy to do that too, so it's hard.
Keeps.
I mean, I said that
Yeah.
I said that last week about James Franklin. I was like,
Yeah, he
I
did.
was like, I was like, okay, I get it, but like Penn State fans need to understand who they are and what their program is. Like,
Yeah.
this is who you are.
This
Like,
is yeah, you guys say it all the time. We are Penn State. Well, you better know what Penn State is in football nowadays. I mean,
like you're not go
let's
12-0 every year.
yeah,
Like,
let's
this
you
is who
got
you
12
are.
and 0. You guys have literally never done that beyond like once in your history. Like, come on. Like you gotta pull it back a little bit. You gotta be like the BG fans, like ourselves down here, that we're striving for that MAC championship game. And quite frankly, if we go like 7 wins, that's an amazing season.
I
We go
the
500. I'm
season
happy.
the season is a tremendous success if we make a bowl game.
Yeah, I was gonna
That
say
is
if we
how
go
How I
I
six
really
wins,
view it,
if we go
honestly.
6 wins, I'm happy, man.
Yeah,
Power of Pudge
honestly.
the Cat. Before we move on from college football, is there anything anyone wants to say about that before we move on? James, you haven't talked about BG football yet. I mean, Bowling Green's, up and down season, but this is hate week, guys, for us. We have Toledo this week. We got to talk about
Mm.
that before we move on to the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting week. I mean, this game under Scott Leffler, I kind of knew exactly what BG would look like and kind of what they would do. With Eddie George, we're going to have to see. I mean, they're, I think, like a 10-point underdog, which is kind of in line of what they've been in these, even in the games that they've won over Toledo recently. So I'm not really overly impressed with this Toledo team. At the same time, I kind of really, even going back to the summer, I thought we weren't going to be a team that got to Detroit this year. And especially with our schedule to start MAC play, playing at Ohio and
Yeah, it's hard.
Toledo, which that was kind of a sign tangent here. I could talk about MAC football forever, but Ball State stunningly beating Ohio last week is, in the MAC world, that was like
That was a big deal.
unranked team beating a number one team. That was crazy. So maybe the MAC is super wide open this year, and but in terms of getting to Detroit, this would definitely be a must win for BG. They have had some pretty tough injuries already, which I think has been pretty impactful. Like their best player on defense,
Out for the
Dorian
year, right?
Pringle, who went to Massillon, the huge, like, incredible high school in Ohio, tore his ACL against Liberty, and he was like all over the place. I mean, he was getting like 15 tackles a game and like 2 tackles for loss a game. So I kind of felt his
And
presence lost last week against Ohio.
as I recall, also his loss wasn't immediate. It was sort of like we don't know how long it's going to be, and then it was like, no, he did tear his
Yeah,
ACL.
he's out for the
He's out for the year, and
there was like no update.
it took
and
like a
didn't play
week for
against
them to put that
Ohio.
out. Yeah,
Yeah, so that's definitely unfortunate. But I think overall this BG team is better than pretty much everyone thought. I mean, for the most part, people like Phil Steele had them finishing 5-7. I think with the win over Liberty, which was a really good win, they really should be a 6-win team at minimum now, I think. I mean, even if they lose to Toledo, I think most of the rest of their games they're going to be favored in, like against UMass and
Kent State,
Akron and
probably.
Kent State, and I think they'll probably be favored against like Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan. So,
I can tell you guys in our office.
I wasn't going to immediately throw Kent State in there as the automatic. I was going to at least list them like third or fourth to be respectful.
And you could argue that
not look terrible.
Kent should have beat
Buffalo.
Should have beat Buffalo.
That was a really good performance. Like that was a total coin flip of that easily could have went their way.
I won't say too much about this, but you guys know, having gone to BG, and everyone I work with knows that, right? Everyone's like, Kellan, is BG any good? Every week I'm like, I don't know. I just keep, I'm like, I think BG is a middle of the road team. And it's like, but I can tell you guys that it was after the Ohio game. It was like, I can tell you guys that I'm sitting thinking the Kent State BG game, I think is more of a toss up now than I thought it was 7 days ago. I mean, absolutely. There's already a lot of talk about Pudge the Cat being here, and like, there's a lot of excitement about that. I'm like, man, people are more excited to see Pudge than they are even Eddie George being here. But it's gonna be fun. There's always a lot of people at that game, and especially for me now having connections to both schools, it's a lot of fun. But Casen, what's up?
I'll just finish my thoughts on the UT week with this of I kind of like what James was saying earlier of like we knew what Leffler was going to be able to do with the team because he was always able to be very competitive and get the team up for the Toledo games because he knew what that meant. He knew the rivalry, he understood it, and he made sure that we were competitive and he won it many times. And so compared to how the track record was before he got here, and so that's the question of like Eddie George, Ohio State guy, like doesn't quite totally know the rivalry that well, and so it's just kind of like how is he going to handle it? Like it seems like maybe he's sort of projecting Michigan onto it and kind of using his hatred for Michigan to fuel how he feels about that.
Which I'm totally fine with. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, they're crossing off T's on campus.
Crossing off T's around campus is a nasty look. I love that. I actually said if you would have given us like the three of us like just send me with an orange tape and make it so that like if you see a T on campus, exit out. I would have walked like randomly over to a sign and been like, oh, there's a couple T's here. Bang, bang, bang. Like I would have done that. You know what I mean? So I love it, man. I love stuff like that.
To what Casen was saying, like I hope that we like Scott Leffler would literally like this was his Super Bowl. Like he cared about this game so much more than any other game. And if you watch Bowling Green regularly, it was so obvious to tell that like we would come out like our whole offense would just be entirely different for the game. Like we'd break out like 6 different formations that we had like never done ever and have like 10 different plays off each of them. So we'll see. Like I that's always the path I would hope BG coaches take. Dave Clawson never did that, and he might have been right in the sense that like he didn't really overvalue that game specifically because he felt like it hurt their chance. He like talked about beating like Ohio more because that was more important. They beat Ohio within the East. It was like guaranteed they'd go to the championship.
Yeah. Right. It didn't count the same in those days.
But now the divisions don't exist. Like it doesn't matter anymore.
Right. Yeah. This game is arguably more important now, honestly.
Yes. Now things are the way they should be.
Yeah. So
hey, go Bowling Green. I'll be texting you guys during this game, man.
I will. I hope it goes well. I really have no idea. We'll see. I mean,
guys, we'll see. But I'll tell you what, we're at home. I know that necessarily doesn't. That has not necessarily ever mattered in this rivalry game. But in a situation where our first meeting, I believe Leffler's first meeting with Toledo was also at home, and that was a surprising Bowling Green win. Grant Loy just going off.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. We didn't think they'd win that game, and we blew them out basically. I'll take it if I'm Eddie George. I'm like, hey, I'm glad we're at home for my first meeting with these guys. Like,
I definitely agree with that for sure. It should be an incredible atmosphere.
I will say, if we don't manage to win, there should be a conversation about is Pudge a locker room distraction.
Well, he wasn't at the game against Ohio, and
we lost.
They like forgot how to play football. They had like 5 horrible turnovers. Like seriously, if they just would have like took care of the ball and played smart, like they could have won that game. But they turned the ball over like 4 or 5 times, and it was horrible.
Yeah, it just got out of hand real quickly.
It did, and then. Moving us along here because I want to get into some NFL and then we'll talk some baseball predictions. Thoughts on the NFL so far, Casen, yet more quarterback news for your Cleveland Browns, which is just wild. It's every week, but Joe Flacco's now going to play for a 3rd AFC North team in his career.
Wow.
I had the thought earlier today. I was like, because he's gonna start the game against the Packers, and my question is like, has that ever happened before in the NFL to where a quarterback starts against the same opponent for a different team like in less than a month?
Probably not.
Like he just played the Packers.
Probably not. Honestly, probably not.
Like I'm sure it's maybe happened for other position players. Like I feel like I've heard that before. But like for a quarterback to start against the same team for two different teams is
And think
crazy.
about how much later the trade deadline is now. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
probably is a stat we'll hear this weekend. Like he's the first quarterback to do the next amount of weeks or whatever.
yeah.
Um, Joe Flacco in
If
a lot
he
of ways.
wins, if he beats the Packers again, like he's like my favorite quarterback ever. If he beats them incredibly on the Browns, like out of nowhere, and then like only 2 weeks later gets traded to the Packers and beats them again, like unbelievable, it would be unbelievable.
It would be unbelievable. I generally root for Joe Flacco now because he's now become kind of the new Fitz Magic in a lot of ways. Like just he's a good story and old and still doing his thing. I agree with James though. Him playing for the Steelers next year would be wild. Um, just completing his Infinity Stones
Yeah.
of the Infinity Gauntlet of the AFC North, as you said, James. But before we dive out of here, I did want to hear James you talk about the Lions season so far and just your general thoughts on things. Steelers were off last week, so I don't really have anything to add on them.
So far, I think it's been a great start to the season. Obviously, week one was they played horrible and got destroyed by the Packers, and that definitely. I mean, I will say this: it was definitely kind of at least from radio and all the like local radio and local coverage and everything. It was definitely kind of a panic after the Packers game because for the whole offseason, the whole narrative was we lost our coordinators and we were going to be screwed. And they did have some key losses to like Frank Ragnow, their center, retired, who I thought was, if not the best center in the NFL, right up there. So that they had some questions that they had to answer, and then they played really poorly week one. But I really thought coming into the season it was like I didn't really see a way that they were like going to be bad. Like maybe
Correct.
like I could definitely see the Packers. Like the Packers are really good, I think, and that was a good trade to get Micah Parsons for them. But I think this Lions team is like if you're just saying roster wise, it's hard for me to pick out like many rosters better than them. I think they're extremely talented, really across the board. I think a lot of their GM, who has drafted probably better than anyone in the NFL since he got to the Lions, and I think Dan Campbell is an unbelievable coach that still probably doesn't get full credit. I think a lot of people still, at least coming into this season, and probably still do, kind of view him more as like a CEO type coach. But I think he's very, I think he comes from Sean Payton is like his main background. I think he's a very brilliant offensive mind. I think a lot of he's called plays for the Lions at different points in his tenure before he hired Ben Johnson.
To chime in, I think he's a really good tactician. Like a lot of the
Yeah,
time,
I think that's
he
something people don't really give him credit for.
for a team, it feels like since they've been there, and it has happened here and there. Since he's been there, the Lions have gotten a lot less screwed on like crazy rules in the NFL that come up out of nowhere, and it does still happen. I know. You told us, James. Like truly, it seems like there's always like something once a year that's kind of wild, but like. It's even stuff like the situation last year where he understood the rule better than something else, and then the refs just screwed it up. Like, the receiver checking in with the lineman and everything. Like,
Oh
he
yeah.
seems to be a very good tactician is in, no, 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 no. I understand the rule book and I know what is legal, okay? I know what we can do and what we can't do. And that's why now it's the whole regime of the Lions there. Like, the Lions are a good team now, and people know that, and it's accepted, and they're contenders. I know it's still a new concept, relatively speaking, for their fans, but what I'm talking about is the consistency is there enough to where he should get his accolades there. You know,
Yeah, they're as prepared really as any team in the NFL. Like if they're playing a team that's like they're supposed to beat, they rarely ever like mess around and make it like a good game. If they're playing a bad team, for the most part, they win by a lot. And if they're playing like a big time opponent, like I think a stat they're showing a lot now is in like the Sunday and Monday night games combined, I think the Lions are 11-2 under Dan Campbell. they rise to they're not going to win every single game. They certainly are still going to lose, but I think in the big games, they put their best foot forward in a lot of them. So it's a good team. We'll see what happens. I think the NFC is probably better this year than it was previous years, especially with, I think the Packers are a really good team, better than they've been previously. So, but the Lions are good. We'll should probably get into the playoffs and have a chance.
Jason, any thoughts? Because I was gonna more stay silent on the NFL, dive into our next one.
No, yeah, we can. We're already talked a lot here. We can get into baseball.
Let's
The
get
whole
into
reason
baseball
James is here.
to wrap things up, James, because not only are the Lions good, the Tigers remain really good. And sorry to make you wait so long to talk about it, but back to it here. It is interesting to talk to you because every time we've talked to you in the past, it's been like during the wild card or right before the wild card round. And due to kind of scheduling and just, I was like, I'd like to hear James kind of more talk once we get to the divisional series. And here we are. Your Tigers are still in it. As of this taping, it'll be Thursday, so it'll be Friday before the series ends. And quite frankly, as a friend of yours, Casen, at not the expense of your team, but as a friend of yours, it is nice to see knowing that one of your teams was going to be here, and it's the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, they had a great performance today. I think it's certainly a pretty resilient win because I don't think many Tigers fans really their backs have definitely been against the wall.
The
They,
last
you
month,
guys, yeah,
really.
you guys talked about on your shows previously, uh, played as bad really as any team in the Major League Baseball in September. Uh, and, to their credit, they have kind of rectified things, at least to a large degree. I mean, for the most part, whenever you hear about these historical collapses, it's a team like not even making the playoffs. They did have a good enough start to where even blowing the division entirely, they still made the playoffs and they got to play a Cleveland team that really has completely dominated the Tigers since really 2015 till that series was like the first time the Tigers had really done anything meaningful against
Yeah,
Cleveland. So, really, at least from that point, from the division standpoint, there was finally something that they could hang their hats on, that they had this unbelievable collapse. But like no one in Detroit was thought they were going to beat Cleveland, especially like all these years, like Cleveland has dominated them. Then they come all the way back. Now we have to go to Cleveland to play in the playoffs. So to their credit, they at least dug deep enough to win that series. Uh, and playing a Seattle team that I think the Tigers I think have played a really good series in this series. I mean,
I
they
agree.
won the first game. The second game was really a total coin flip. I mean, it was 2-2 in the bottom of the eighth inning, and Cal Raleigh and Julio Rodriguez got a couple big hits to win 3-2. Really, if that goes the Tigers' way, which it easily could have, this series probably would have been over. I mean, if they would have been up 2-0 going back to Detroit, they would have felt pretty good about that. And then, Seattle wins the game, which it was kind of crazy, the parallels to like the Lions, because that was like Seattle's first playoff win in like 24 years or something. Like had people crying in the stands. Like that was an
It was very
unbelievable
similar to the
atmosphere.
Lions
It was,
winning
yeah. Like that was
against
an
Stafford.
yeah, like fans. That was an amazing atmosphere in Seattle, and then they completely destroyed the Tigers yesterday, and really are the more talented team. I think for sure. I think the Tigers are the least talented team probably in the AL playoffs remaining, but uh,
Interesting.
the MLB playoffs to me are more of a crapshoot than most, if not the most crapshoot in sports. I think really anything can happen in these. I didn't go into this series even with thinking that. I thought it was kind of a toss up, especially in a shorter best of five series. So, uh, they have a winner take all game with Tarek Skubal. They definitely have a chance. They obviously had that exact same scenario last year in the ALDS game 5 at Cleveland, and the Tigers lost. So nothing is a guarantee. Their offense has been so bad that really with Tarek Skubal being amazing, Kellan can probably relate to this. Like you can have the most amazing pitcher ever. If your team doesn't score, you're not going to win. So
Yep.
that's kind of what the Tigers have been doing in these Tarek Skubal starts. Like he goes 8 innings and gives up 1 or 2 runs, but you still got to score 3 to win, and they haven't been. So,
and as I've told both you guys, and James, you've said in your Snapchats to me and other things, it's sort of like if you're a team that's a fringe contender, not contender, postseason team to get into the postseason, if you have a Tarek Skubal or, in theory, a Paul Skeens, you like your chances at least in 1 to 2 of those postseason games. That right there is actually what I like the Tigers' chances a lot going into that last game because I would, if it's coming right down to whose bats are going to be whatever, I'd like the opportunity of knowing, okay, at least we've got our guy, our absolute dog on the mound for this, giving our bats the best chance we possibly can. And, and I kind of like the idea of the Mariners are going to return home after being away. So it's sort of like the similar atmosphere to that first game where they're coming into it having been away. They just lost a couple days. Instead of rolling in that momentum of, okay, we lost last night, but let's roll back right into it and then winning that second game. So I think that favors Detroit, but that's just me. Casen, you can chime in on any of this if you want to. I didn't, mean to step on you.
No, I mean, I don't personally feel like anybody cares what I have to say about this sport. So
come on. That's not true.
I don't agree.
Well, I mean, it is always funny because when we talk baseball, Matt's always like, "You trying to talk baseball?" It's so funny.
Well, hey, listen.
I've never lied. Like, I don't really like. I am not a baseball guy that much.
Yeah, but the thing about our show, though, Casen, is that you are the NBA guy. I feel that way about the NBA a lot of the time, and you do carry that discussion as far as that goes.
I mean, sometimes, but
you do. Well, if that being the case, I do kind of want to shift things to, okay, bigger picture, who's left. We're into the postseason now. It's October 8th. It's going to be October 9th by the time this show goes out. Still a lot of baseball left because I love this round because the only thing about the next round is always that there's less teams playing and there's less baseball. And it's like, okay, we're coming down to the end. Got to say the Blue Jays-Yankees series, the first 2 games were actually hilarious. I actually did get a chance to watch them. Hilarious if you're a Yankee kind of hater. As most people who are not their fans are fringe to not likers of the Yankees. And I will say that I was watching when Vlad Guerrero Jr. hit his grand slam, which amazingly was the first grand slam in the history of Blue Jays postseason baseball, which wow. I guess that makes sense, but that is incredible if you really think about it. And it was the most telegraphed, definitely going to happen. Like he's going to grand slam them, right? Grand slam I've ever seen. And I love things in sports where devastating thing for other team happens and then they immediately zoom in on the dugout of the team and there was one line and there was one moment in that where someone had the perfect angle of hits ball, Vlad flips the bat, and then they immediately zoom in right on the Yankees bench.
Oh my gosh, that is great.
It's just it's so savage. And also if you're the Yankees, it's we lost. What?
They pan to a fan who's just even more demonstratively devastated.
Surrender Cobra on the ground. Just they find the one pinstripe person with just screaming Blue Jays fans all around.
Yeah.
And we know the sport, we know sports world, so someone in a producer truck said, "All right, someone find me a Yankees fan now," and they said camera 5 or whatever.
Exactly. Follow an emotional fan for 1 inning, so that when something crazy happens, we can just immediately go to that fan, and it'll be hilarious.
And so I love storytelling like that. I will say this game is going on. It just started. It's game 4 for them. It's Blue Jays up 1-0. The Yankees were able to actually get back into the series. Aaron Judge finally did anything in the postseason, which was to write home about. He had a huge home run.
That really was incredible, honestly.
It was awesome.
I have to give it to the Yankees. They were getting destroyed again. Wasn't it 6-1, I think?
Yes.
That was going to be a full-fledged, disgraceful sweep, and they had this amazing comeback. So
it was 6-3, and his home run tied the game. So it was like, oh, okay,
And it was
well,
off the foul pole. It was an amazing, like, it really, honestly, like, I agree with I saw someone say this. Like, I don't think any other player could have hit a home run there other than Aaron Judge, because it was like a big fastball, like maybe 100-mile-per-hour fastball, like up and in, like to where
mhm.
it's like you can't like get extended and really get a great swing on it, but he just was able to, pull the bat in and like hit it off the barrel basically
And
somehow.
it
And then
was
even then
and it
to
was
get
like
it
50 feet
fair,
up the foul pole. Like it was way up there
yeah,
too.
it was like
Like,
almost at the very top of the foul pole, but just a very hard ball to keep
mhm,
fair, let alone like hit a home run off of it. So that really was incredible.
it was. I have less to say on the two other series here: Brewers, Cubs, my division, Phillies, Dodgers. Admittedly, I'm rooting for the Tigers or Phillies just because we know a lot of Philly fans that whenever my family goes on vacation in Jersey, um, I will say I don't care who wins Brewers Cubs. They both annoy me. But that's just me being a Pirates fan. It would be cool to finally see the Brew Crew do something. Um, I think everyone's fighting for the right to lose to the Dodgers again. That's just my
It
personal.
honestly, I agree. Like it does kind of seem like the dot. Like we're just like I know we'll like all make our picks and everything, but the Dodgers really do this, especially after the game one where it looked like they
Mhm.
were gonna lose, and then they came back in the fashion they did, and then they just destroyed the Phillies basically the next game. And now, yeah, like they seem pretty destined to at least go to the NLCS, and then I mean, their roster certainly is significantly better than if they face the Cubs or the Brewers. The one thing I'll say about that Brewers Cubs series is like I've always kind of enjoyed the because I mean I on the show I never picked the Brewers just because and you were Kellan, you were
Yeah,
right, you picked the Brewers and they did it again. They somehow were absent for no reason, but they were absolutely incredible and they had an unbelievable season. And
I
now
picked
to
the
their
Brewers to
credit,
win, man.
they're
I always do that.
yeah. And now, they finally did it again. And now in the playoffs, though, they're actually looking good. The one thing I have to say about that, though, is it is funny that if they do ultimately win this series, that it would be against Craig Counsell, their former manager, who's
Yeah.
the Cubs manager now. So as far like just being a total hater, if you're just like total like makes no sense, you can say like, well, like Craig Counsell is a total failure. He could never win with the Brewers in the playoffs. Like, of course, that's the one playoff series they win. But it's either way, like it would still be impressive because I thought the Cubs
Mhm.
like could win this series. So I mean,
Another
we'll see
interesting
that.
thing I'll say about that is a lot of people I've noticed in each other's ballparks for that series because Milwaukee, Chicago are really close to each other. Like they're like the two closest teams like in the NL Central or
Oh
something. So
wow, yeah,
like at least geographically. So I mean Chicago to Milwaukee, that's just right up right up the lake, So it has been interesting to see that. It's been interesting to see what the Cubs have done. And it's quite frankly, it's an interesting to see the season that the Cubs clawed out for themselves. I will say, bottom of the sixth as of right now, it is 4-2 Cubs, and that is in Chicago. I do half expect the Cubs to maintain that win, maintain that lead, and win to stave off elimination. I have, I will still stick to the Brewers. Probably pull it out. So, do you guys want to predict the end here? Because we're getting into it here. It's been a long show, but I think it's time to say what we think's going to happen as baseball wraps up here. So
yeah.
take the.
I'll go with the Dodgers in the NL. I think I picked the Mets if you guys remember. Which
You did.
wow, I was like a couple days away from I picked the Tigers and the Mets, which you like I half picked like no one picked the Tigers. Like the Tigers were like no one really even picked them in the division. I think they were like a consensus like third place team in the division just because the people really thought the Royals would be really good. They made the playoffs last year. The Twins were like the best. They were really good, and then they bombed out. And then Cleveland was kind of the consensus pick to win the division. And ultimately, it panned out that way. But
No
yeah,
one
I
picked the
was like,
Tigers though. No one was picking them. You
yeah,
said
like
that at the time.
they were kind of like they had a miracle just to make the playoffs the previous year, and it was going to be a very telling year if they were able to ultimately they put together a decent season enough to make the playoffs. But yeah, I was really close from because the Mets. I mean, that's like the most to me, that's the most like disgraceful bomb out ever. They signed Juan Soto and have like the most expensive roster like in history, and they like that's the most Mets thing ever. That they didn't even make the playoffs the year they signed Juan Soto.
And you got their owner
And the
out
way
here
that
still.
panned out, like they were
Their owner out here
just
still saying, "Look, I'm so sorry. Like, I just like I'm spending everything I
yeah,
have. I'm
I
trying
did
to
see
do
that.
this."
Yeah,
I mean,
that was fun. I love
but
that. If that guy was my owner, you have to at least respect the guy. Like
oh
he's
yeah, it's
out there doing everything possible in his mind to make the team good. But yeah, that was. I'm glad, at least for my sake, that the Tigers at least made the playoffs and now have at least put together a decent run. But yeah, that was a long tangent. But I'd go the Dodgers and the NL. And just for the bit of it, I'll stick with the Tigers. They're still in it. If they beat, they got Tarek Skubal in Game 5. It's kind of a toss-up to me in that game. If the Tigers pull it out, then they're in the ALCS. So, and I don't think the Yankees or Blue Jays are unbeatable. So I think either of them would be favored over the Tigers, but it wouldn't be a David versus Goliath type thing.
no.
So I'll go Tigers and 7 over the Dodgers in the World Series.
You know what? I love it, man. I'm like I said, I'm openly rooting for the Tigers or Phillies that are left. In my heart of hearts, I think it's going to be a World Series of blue. I think it's going to be the Blue Jays and a Dodger blue. Is
That'd
what
be a
I
good World Series, honestly.
it
I
really
think I
really
could see the
would.
Blue Jays being competitive in that.
Right. And the Blue Jays honestly have been an eye opener all year. It's been like, oh wow, they really are as good as people thought they could be. And they've been fun to watch in the postseason. So I mean I'm leaning more that direction if I'm giving like my brain thinks this will happen. I hope the Tigers win the World Series for you, James, quite frankly. So
I
we can
appreciate it.
I'm dead
I
serious
know.
because
Yeah, you for sure are.
you know I am because like I have very and this is my little tangent I'll go on and then Casey you can go. I have next to nothing ever to root for in the baseball postseason every single year. And in a year that genuinely damaged, I wouldn't say damaged my love for the sport. I won't go that far, but in a world that definitely like made me say I am not giving this organization money anytime soon as long as I can, go into the occasional game maybe. But like this year at the deadline
Paul
really
Skeens is worth seeing still. You should go see him if you can.
yes, that's kind of
I
what I'm
would
getting
pay
at.
I would pay money to see Paul Skeens.
I would like to see Paul Skeens pitch, and the amount of times I'm going to be able to do that live is not going to be very often in a Pittsburgh uniform, probably. But the ownership of the Pirates really took something from me this year, and as bad as the Orioles season was, at least their owner cares. I
They
can't
had a
sit.
nice second half too.
They
Like
did, they did.
like it wouldn't like they could easily make the playoffs next year and it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, and you texted me too, James, that you think that they could be a turnaround team next year. I hope
Yeah,
that's the case.
they had a disastrous first half, which
Hmm.
in baseball that happens. Like
Yeah,
I don't think their projection is like bad at all for next season.
yeah, and they had injuries too. It is what it is. But being able to live vicariously through my friends, not even just you, James, but my friends who were Guards fans. Even the Reds made the season this year. Not a Reds fan, but Matt is a Reds fan.
I was pulling for the Reds. I was like,
I
please,
was gonna, I
please
was gonna
pull
say if
this
they were
off.
gonna
It'd be
mess
amazing.
around and beat the Dodgers, that would
That would
be
have been
objectively kind of
incredible.
cool. So that's all I got. Casen.
Yeah, I'll first just add, yeah, I mean, I think you'll have plenty of opportunities to see Skeens come to Cleveland in pinstripes in the
Yeah,
future
I mean
here.
you're right. Hey,
Gosh.
yeah, you're right. You're probably right.
Eric Skubal too. He's gonna probably get. I'm like, it's actually hilarious how this like similar some of this Pirates Tiger stuff is because like
Mm.
the whole narrative is like Tarek Skubal he has one more next season. He'll be with the Tigers if he plays out his contract, but then after that he's a free agent, and it's just like every like I log on Twitter now and I'll see like a thing of him in like a Yankees uniform, and it's just like, yep, like people think he's going to do that because he has Scott Boras as his agent.
Yep. I
Well,
mean,
Tarek Skubal, get ready to learn Mr. Met.
Yeah,
or Mr.
that
Mac.
guy will pay. Yes, that guy will pay whatever it takes to get Tarek Skubal.
There's one thing though that I'll pause and pump the brakes here, you guys, because a year from now we will be sitting here talking about baseball again. Lord willing and creeks don't rise type thing. there's going to be a horrendous lockout on the horizon the next time we're
Yeah.
talking about postseason baseball on this show, or just in general ongoing as we talk as friends. And that's the one, whatever comes out of that is my one hope, James, for fixing a little bit of
Yeah,
this,
that's
whether
true. If
it be
there's
a
a
salary
salary cap or
floor
something.
or something or a change, because if they really hammer out things that are better for the sport, which is as a fan is all we can hope for, because we've talked about a lot of things on this show that baseball in their heart of hearts, more people in baseball should be disgusted by. Okay, that more people, it's damaging the
I
game,
agree. I really
damaging the
agree.
love of the game. And I'm sitting here holding out hope. It may not necessarily save our two great pitchers, James, from leaving our franchises way before they should. However, could it help us out in the health of the game in the future when we have the next great phenom? That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for long term. You're not going to get everything you want. The health of the game needs to improve, but that's what I'm hoping for. Casey, you want to predict? I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
No, no, you're fine. Yeah, I mean, my head's telling me, Blue Jays, Dodgers. That just
Also,
makes the most sense. Um, for the bit, it'd be kind of fun if it was Yankees, Dodgers. Hate
can I
off again.
can I say I love the hat you have on, James? That's been like my
Oh
favorite
yeah, this was the
Tigers
one I
hat.
showed you that I bought at the state. This is like the Tigers spring training hat. I love this Tigers logo here.
Very much so. You know me. I love teams that wear orange. Love that the Tigers did the all orange thing. The jacket that Miguel Cabrera had on for that
Oh,
first pitch
that honestly
was
was
amazing.
incredible.
Like
No
actually,
one knew that Miguel Cabrera was coming. That was easy. Not that it was saying much. They got destroyed in the game, but that was like that was easily the best part of the game. But it was actually like incredible because it was like I don't think he was really in Detroit at all this year. And then it was like Miguel Cabrera is throwing out the first pitch. It was like, wow, like holy
I
crap.
and how many people made
Yeah,
the
that was an
joke?
incredible
How many
jacket.
people made the joke in game, James, that said, "Quick, let's get him a contract and get him in
Oh,
here."
literally like probably like 8 different people within earshot is because the whole thing right now is that the Tigers offense isn't good. Like as soon as he came on, it was like, can he bat cleanup tonight? Like 10 different people said that. And it was like, honestly, yes, like sign him.
Yeah, I was
Like
gonna
he
say,
can't do any worse.
if we sign him for one game, have Tarek go out there, he'll hit a home run. Forget about it. It's done. We're out of
Yes.
here. We're on to the next round at least. Uh, and one last thing I'll say: if I'm a Tigers fan, I want that jacket he had on.
Yeah,
That
that
thing,
was great,
like
honestly.
those big orange, like '80s looking starter jackets, like those dugout jackets. Those are sick, man. As is the hoodie you have on. But that's our show. He's holding the old English D. That's our show. James, thanks so much for joining us, brother. We always appreciate having you on. Glad we were able to
Yeah.
figure out the screen situation.
Yeah. I apologize to everyone. I the whirlwind of emotions of the last like 15 minutes before I got on this show where I thought the Tigers season was over. Then they were winning by like 5 runs, like an inning left. Then I'm not at my house and I couldn't get anything to work. That was crazy. But thank you guys very much. And this is, like I said at the start of this is like a biannual highlight of my year. So this was a lot of fun.
Hey, we appreciate and love you, man. Casey, you got anything left to say, brother?
Uh, no, I think that covered pretty much. We talked a lot, so we covered pretty much everything.
Roger that, man. Well, we appreciate and thank everyone so much for watching, listening. We thank you, James. Let us know your thoughts on the postseason so far. Let us know your thoughts on October as we have hockey back. We got basketball starting. Shout out McLaren for winning the Constructors Championship in F1. Again, speaking of teams that wear orange. Uh,
Love F1.
yep. And we'll get you on here, maybe talking F1 sometime in the spring as well, James, since it'll be
Nice.
ramping back up again, come back. But until then, this is Kellan.
This is Casen.
And this is James.
And as always, we'll see you at the next stop.